Cover up that red bar. Oh, yeah, you're not on now.
Oh, aren't I on?
Hey, you are live now. You're live.
Test, test.
Yep. Ahead and get started here. Just talking with Officer Valerie Young and Keith Young. They are married, and between the
I'm
two,
the better half.
yes, between the two of them, they have 71 years of police officer training, evenly split, pretty much. Yep. So they're very, very experienced in these things. So there's going to be some stuff we're going to be doing and everything, just observing. So I want to just go ahead and pass it off to Officer Valerie Young and let her just start the program.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Yep.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? Okay. I warn them ahead of time. I speak very loudly, and sometimes you're going to find out when I really like my subject matter, I really kind of get going and everything too. So again, I'm Officer Valerie Young, and this is my husband, Keith Young. And I've been on the department 35 years. He's been on 36 years. So it's we're the longest serving married couple also in the department. So that's something I'm proud of. So, but So he's going to help me here a little bit with some bungee cords when we get ready to show you some other stuff here in just a few moments. So you go ahead and sit for now. I'll use your muscles here in a little bit, okay? But as we go through this, let you guys know a little bit about this presentation. We came about making this when, unfortunately, the events started happening around the country. And then what happened in Virginia Beach, it really kind of solidified the presentation. So the presentation you're getting is the one that we give to the city employees. Because every new city employee has to go through this training now, and even the other employees do also. So we are currently updating it. I explained to him we were in the process. Everything has just been happening so quickly in the last few years. You guys know that already. And you're going to see a couple of the cases I'm going to show you are a little bit older, but the reason I'm showing them is because they have come to a finalization this year. Okay, so we'll relate all that to you. So CRASE stands for Civilian Response to Active Shooter Emergency Events, So as we go along here, we'll go over some things. I did try to get I tried to pick it up real quick, some newer stats. What I really want to stress to you guys during this presentation is reasons why people are doing this and what we need to look out for and what we can do to prevent them. Because we're finding out more and more, a lot of these, somebody knew that it was going to happen before it happened, okay? And that's the biggest thing. And then we want you to know what to do in case, God forbid, something ever happened and you were involved in an event. So let's go ahead and we'll get started. Love this clicker already. They told me it was a new clicker, so this is great. So one of the things we always tell people is whenever you go somewhere, these are things we always try to tell people that you should know where they're at. Now, not to be mean or anything, but usually the first thing we always ask when we go somewhere is where are the restrooms? Am I right? Okay, because we always want to know where the restrooms are at. But you need to know where are the emergency exits. You know, sometimes we go into a place and we go in and out the same place. It might even be a restaurant we go to all the time, and we don't know where the other exits might be. So we need to know where those other emergency exits are, okay? Need to know if there's an AED trauma kit, because unfortunately, if there's an event that happens, you guys are going to be giving first aid to each other first before we can get there. The paramedics and EMTs are not going to be able to come in there until we have made the scene safe. I'm not saying that to be mean to you. I know there's been some times where people will see things on TV and they're like, the officers are walking over bodies and this and that, because we have to stop the shooter first, because the EMTs can't come in until it's unfortunately the shooter has been stopped. If there's any medically trained personnel, we find a lot of times that there are people who might be volunteer EMTs, nurses, doctors, just different things like that that can maybe possibly even help with giving first aid. So I know sometimes, like we even tell church groups that when you guys meet on either Sundays or sometimes some groups meet Wednesday nights for Bible study and things like that, think about, is there anybody in your church that is medically trained? Okay? And then who is calling 911? If there's an event, who should be calling 911? Everybody. Thank you, everyone. I can't explain to you guys how many times we have been on calls for service, and let's say, for example, there's just been a shooting in our city. We'll get one 911 call on it, but we'll have 50 or 60 people are there on the scene. Did you hear or see something? Oh, yeah, I saw it. Why didn't you call 911? And well, I assumed they were going to call 911. Never make that assumption. We would rather get 10, 15, 20 phone calls on the same call for service. That way we know something's going on and we can get more up-to-date information.
Also, unfortunately, a lot of times these people that aren't calling, they're busy filming the whole time.
Yes, everybody wants to be that. That's the one thing, and I will say later on in the presentation, I can't stand when I hear these people who you guys will hear on the news, especially we had those storms. Remember we had the tornadoes recently, in Virginia Beach? And I can't stand it when I see on these news channels, safely send us your storm pictures, And I've seen, we've worked hurricanes when Isabel was around. We saw people out there, Isabel, winds blowing. They got that video camera up though. That your life is more valuable. Your phones and all can be replaced and everything else. Your life can't be replaced. You need to get to safety. So these are some of the things we're going to go over. We're going to go over some of the active shooter events that have happened in the past, some things about disaster response, avoid, deny, defend. That's how we're going to tell you to get away from people, and we'll study the Virginia Tech case. And by the way, I apologize. I know I'm jumping. He's going to kill me. I do wear a uniform. I'm on light duty right now. So I just wanted, because I know some people are looking at me, is she really an officer, even though I have my little thing here? I really am. I apologize, and I had to cancel on y'all before because I had a heart attack, but I'm doing good now. I'm not going to be down for the count, so I just apologize, I can't be in my uniform, so bear with me. So I really am, if you need my credentials, they're right there. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead, and this is why we're here. This is a place in Paris. It's kind of like a little delicatessen shopping mini mart place. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see a man come in with an assault rifle, and you're going to see him come in and start shooting. And what you're also going to go ahead and see is that his gun jams up. And what I want you to pay attention to, the fact is that there are opportunities that present itself for people to get away. Everybody follow me on that? But you're going to see some people, when they show it from a different angle, we'll show it from two different angles. You're going to see some people, they hear the shooting. Some people go into this denial thing. Is this really happening? I can't believe this is happening. And then you're going to see some people do this, come like peeking around the cash register corner. Don't come back and do peekaboo. You need to get out, run, start going, get out of the way. And you'll see where there's one. Now, this lady with the baby in the baby stroller, I will tell you right now, her and her baby survive, okay? Everybody worries about that when they first see this because they're like, oh my gosh, there's a baby there. So you will see a gentleman, when it shows from the other angle, he's got his son in there. When he realizes what's happening, he picks up his kid and he runs. But I want you, when they show the different angle from this, I want you to, you're going to see the gun jam several times. Again, presents an opportunity where if somebody could possibly take on the guy, tackle him to the ground, somebody else would try to get the weapons away from him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Let me see if I can get it to work. Okay, here we go. So here he comes in. His gun's jammed up. Everybody see that? He's trying to shoot. Is that opportunity? Am I in the way of you right there? Okay. Now look from this angle. You're going to see the guy playing peekaboo. This guy's going to pick up his kid. See, I'm getting my kid out of here. Now watch the guy by the green part of the counter. He's going to come play peekaboo. See? Well, I got to see what's going on. Don't want you to do that. You need to start running, and when you get to a safe place, then you start calling. But see, his gun's jammed again. Was that an opportunity for more people to either get away? The cashier could have run away, couldn't she? Yes.
Right about
Okay.
there was a time to bounce a can of beans off his head.
No. So you got to kind of keep in mind that this is something that you need to really kind of pay attention to, because you've got to get away. You've got to get away. So we're going to go over some active shooter events that we've had here in the past. And just to kind of give you guys a definition of an active shooter event, it's where it's going to equal somebody who's going to be attempting mass murder. Now, I know some people were concerned because when we had the shooting at Heritage High School, some people said that was an active shooter event. It wasn't. It was a one-on-one crime. There was a person who was going after a target, just one person. He wasn't trying to shoot the whole school up. Now, I've had some people who've asked me, well, what about all the shootings in Chicago we hear about? All these, that's all gang related. That falls under a totally different category. But you will hear some of them will fall under this category. Now, some of the things we're going to show you in here, you're going to see people are going to also use different weapons, but they put it under active shooter events, okay, to categorize it. So keep that in mind. These shooters are looking for big targets. They want target-rich areas in order to go ahead and get people. And they, unfortunately, each one of them is trying to get the highest number body count. They want to be known as, I got the highest number. Not something I'd want to brag about. Right now, we can't say there's like one set profile. There is usually an avenger mindset. They usually have something against the people. It might be a disgruntled employee. It might be somebody who might be racist or prejudiced towards a particular group or ethnicity of a group or a religion or culture. The thing that really is scary is this, is I know people, when they first started hearing shooters, mass shootings, what's the first one you really think about, we've heard about? Columbine. Who said that? Thank you. Okay. Now, how many shooters were there in Columbine? 2. Okay, or 2. What race were they? White, okay. A lot of people thought for the first few mass shootings we had, most of them were predominantly white males, and a lot of people thought it's always the white males doing it. I want you guys to know, it's not. And if you look the last week here, did y'all notice the different races and everything of the people that were shooting? And I still can't even believe that one guy was Hispanic and he was attacking Hispanic people. It's just unbelievable. So you can't go by just, it's not. We've even had female shooters. I want y'all to know that too. In Las Vegas a few years ago, there was a mass shooting in a Walmart. The police officers responded. They came around the corner and people were describing a white male as the shooter. One officer came around the corner and he found a female being pretty calm, and he said to her, "Ma'am, you know, there's a mass shooter in here. We need you to leave." And she turned around, looked at him. She goes, "Oh, I know, I'm with him." She turned around, shot, and killed him. It was all his acts on camera. So, you know, you need to realize that even when we come on the scene, we're not going to treat it as just being one person. We're going to be looking for whoever it may be, and however many there may be, okay? We are finding a lot of them are broadcasting now on social media. Social media is a very powerful thing. And if you even think about the last couple of weeks here, how many of y'all have noticed that the news reports, they've said they put something on their social media prior to, okay? And just to kind of let you know, I always try to tell people, our daughter's a school teacher. She teaches English, so she's very lucky because she still actually has where she makes the kids write on paper. You know, that's kind of an ancient artifact now, paper. You know, it's all the computers and everything. But the thing that's kind of cool and interesting is sometimes she teaches 8th grade. She looks if they do doodads on their papers. Because sometimes the kids may write something violent, but they may also draw something violent. And that's kind of a heads up. So if you have children and grandchildren, and if they're in elementary school and they have to keep journals, whatever, the composition books and everything, once in a while take a peek in those books. Look what's in there. Look at what the kids are doodling and stuff. Now, just because it may be drawing, you know, a police officer or a bad guy, you know, it doesn't mean it may be a bad thing, but you need to look and see the context in which they're doing it, okay? And then talk to your child or grandchild. Why did you draw this? Or what were you thinking when you draw this? Or how are you thinking? Or how do you feel towards either the police or this type of person or anything else? Talk to them, because that's one of the biggest problems we have nowadays. People just don't talk to each other anymore. Hand me my cell phone there for a minute. Because this is one thing I really hate. And my husband laughs at me because he's always getting on me. I always leave it at home and everything else too. It's in the front right here.
But I forgot mine this time.
Yeah. I hate these things. I really do. I'm not going to lie. And one of the reasons I hate these things is because I see more and more people doing this. Let's say we're 2 young people here at Busch Gardens, and this is we've lost this ability to face talk to each other. And I see the young kids. I'm having a really great time. Yeah, I am too. Wasn't that a cool ride? They're not talking to each other. They're texting each other right when they're standing next to each other. And if you don't believe me, look around. You'll see it happening all the time. We need to really, and like I said, reemphasize, you have to spend time with your kids and family members and everything, and you have to make sure you do that face talk time. Get them to communicate, because them going in their room and hiding with their phones and their other electronic devices that are social media, they're going into a whole different zone. And that zone a lot of times is not reality. Okay, it's not reality. So keep that in mind. Now, a lot of times it is a single shooter, but like I told you, Columbine wasn't. We also even had a male and female up in New Jersey that went into a Jewish delicatessen and shot and killed several people. Again, didn't like the people because they were Jewish. That was their rationale. So we can't always say it's always just one shooter. So these are some risk factors that we see that happen with people, unfortunately, that become shooters. There's a history of violence and also exposure to violence. And just to kind of let you know, I'm not, please understand, sometimes I'm a very hard person. He'll tell you I'm very hard on our kids and everything else too. I'm not excusing this behavior. I want y'all to understand that, okay? But I do want you to understand that sometimes we don't know what young people are being exposed to in their homes. When the pandemic hit, and you know, we've had terrible economic problems since the pandemic, whether people want to acknowledge that or not, we have. They had put me back out on the street, and we had an apartment complex where we had a young male who killed himself, and he killed his pregnant girlfriend, teenage girlfriend also. I had to go out there, and this is when, right before the pandemic hit, and I had to go out there, and they wanted me to kind of watch the bus stops to make sure the kids were okay when they were getting off the buses. You know, there wasn't going to be any more, you know, repeats or trying to go ahead and imitate. So I went out there, and I noticed that it was an apartment complex, not very big, and I noticed that the first set of buses came in for the elementary schools, and there were like 8 or 9 buses for the elementary school kids, and every seat was taken, 3 to a seat. And I'm like, wow, okay. The middle school buses came, 6 buses, 3 to a seat. The high school came, this is unheard of, 6 high school buses came, 3 to a seat. I'm like, good grief. And I mean, the kids just unloading. I went and talked to the apartment manager, and I was asking her, I said, why do you guys have like lots of kids here? I mean, how many people can you fit in your apartments? And she told me, well, we have some 3-bedroom apartments. And I'm like, oh, really? And she goes, yeah, we have a couple apartments where there's 14 people living in the apartment. And I looked at her and I said, 14 people? And she said, well, they're all related. So if you have where you can make accommodations to separate the boys and girls, supposedly, and you say your family, I mean, I'm going to pick on you, Mr. Bean, okay, just because I just saw his shirt, we talked about it. But Mr. Bean and I are not related. But if we turn around and, are you Mrs. Bean? Yes. Okay, so we're going to, are you related also? No. Okay. Well, let's just say the 4 of us are all going to go ahead and get an apartment, and we're going to go ahead and get a 1-bedroom apartment, but we don't have enough money, and that's all we qualify for. That's all we can get. So what's going to happen is, they're going to give us that apartment because we're going to say we're all brothers and sisters. And what are they going to do? Do a DNA test on us? They're not going to do that. And that's why you see, too, a lot of these hotels, motels around here have so many people living in them, families and everything, because they can't qualify for apartments and stuff, too. So when you put that many people into a house, think about the lack of privacy. I mean, think about even when you're at home sometimes with your spouse or family members. How many of y'all ever had this? What are you watching on TV? I don't want to watch that. Am I right? Seriously, okay? Now try putting 14 people of different ages in there with doing that. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. So we did call housing up and everything else, but they said, they told us the same thing, nothing could be done. But we did try. But a lot of these young people too, they're constantly seeing violence in the homes where they may be growing up in a family that might be having gang members and everything in it, or they may be used to seeing mom and dad beat each other up all the time, and they think that's acceptable behavior. And now we're seeing a lot more people that are having guns in their homes. They're not leaving the guns secure and everything, so the kids are getting used to getting access to the guns. Substance abuse and dependence and mental illness, we're going to kind of put those ones together, and the last one also. We are having such a severe, severe problem with mental illness right now in this country. When I worked during the pandemic, I was working the streets, and we were so short. We're like every other department. I was working 12-hour shifts at 1.7 days a week. I could not believe how many mental health calls we go on in one day. Sometimes he and I will work a secondary job in the evenings, and that's all you hear, isn't it? Mental health, mentally ill person, mentally ill person. And a lot of them have weapons. They have weapons. The sad thing is that there's not enough hospitals or places around here that will deal with mental health because there's no money to be made in it. I hate to sound like that, but there's just no money to be made into it.
Yeah, Virginia got out of the mental health business about probably close to 30 years ago. And the Virginia Surgeon General said, well, as long as they take their medication, they'll be okay.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest problems. And it's
a lot of people don't like to take their medication because it makes them feel blah, or they feel like being poisoned. And you can imagine the problems that caused for us. And that's when we had a huge upsurge in the state in homelessness.
Yep.
It's probably 99% of the people we deal with that are homeless have some sort of a mental problem.
And it may not even be a severe mental problem, but it might be just something where they need to take some medications. So just want you guys to kind of keep that in mind. And the other problem that we have too is that like at Riverside Hospital, they have an area called the J-Pod where it's 3 beds where mentally ill people can come into. We also help out with security there because unfortunately there's not enough people to help them. So when a person comes in on what they call emergency custody order or detention order because of their mental state, they have to be handcuffed to a bed for their safety as well as everybody else's. I had, unfortunately, had to go up there and cover for the EOC officer one night when he was gone. And if there's more than 3 people up there, there's supposed to be another officer. We didn't have enough officers. When I went up there one night, there were 17 people in the hallways and everything, handcuffed to gurneys and all. And by the time my shift was done, we had 10 more come in. You know, there's just not enough people and facilities and everything to help deal with it. And we have to face this crisis. Because if you notice a lot of these shooters recently, have you noticed how many of them have been diagnosed with some kind of previous mental illness? They're not getting any kind of follow-up and treatment. The same thing, you know, we have a big, big college in our town, don't we? University, actually, don't we? You think we get mental health calls there? Yeah. You know why? Kind of like what he was saying. You know, kids growing up, mom and dad taking care of them, mom and dad always making sure they're taking their medicine every day. They get to college, they're in dorm rooms and all, guess what they don't want to do? They don't want to take their medicine anymore. And then over a period of time, it builds up and the problems start happening. So I really like this clicker. Stalking, harassing, or threatening behavior. This is something we try to tell people to be very careful about, and please don't be embarrassed about. I know people don't want to air out their dirty laundry. Let me give you an example. When I had the opportunity to work the district around Christopher Newport, which was known then as college, we had a lady who worked in the administration building, and she was getting a divorce from her husband. It was really, really a nasty divorce. He was stalking her, leaving notes in her car, calling her at work and everything. Well, she was embarrassed and didn't want to tell anybody about it. And I understand, people don't want to air out their dirty laundry. However, his behavior started becoming more and more severe and the threats and everything. So what ended up happening was she didn't tell anybody, and we got a call from a student on the campus that there was a guy on the campus with a gun. So when I got there, luckily they had a Christopher Newport police officer that happened to come right around the corner, saw the guy, tackled him, and got him. And it was her soon-to-be ex-husband. Now, his intent, he told us, he was going to go in, he would have shot anybody who got in the way. Did she place her coworkers in danger? Absolutely. You don't have to go telling every single person, but at least tell your supervisors, hey, I got this problem. The same thing we tell people when you're going through custody battles. A lot of times we see where, people are embarrassed, they don't want to tell people we're going through a divorce or separation, whatever. But if you're somewhere like at a school and you have not changed, you better make sure you've changed the custody thing at the school, because if that ex comes up and gets the kid, there could be issues. Okay? Especially if they both come up at the same time to pick up the kid. So you want to avoid things like that. Don't be afraid to report it. Negative family dynamics, the support system, and isolation or instability, kind of keep this in mind. How many times have we heard people when they get angry at their kids or punish their kids, go to your room? Right? Well, they go to the room. Guess what's in their room? TV. Okay? Their phones, their electronics, their video games. You're not punishing them. Again, you're putting them now, you're creating that isolation and everything else too. So, sometimes you really want to be mean, tell them, hey, you got to sit in the living room with me. Okay? Make them stay with you. I know that sounds terrible, but, try to get some different type of outlet. Kind of think out of the box if you have to, so to speak. We did that with our kids sometimes. I mean, sometimes he'll tell you, my kids will get real aggravated with me, and I'm like, okay, I'm real aggravated with you too. You go sit right there, and that sounds terrible, but they couldn't stand being in the same room sometimes. Well, guess what? That's your punishment. Why am I going to let you go off to your room so you can go ahead and call your friends? I hate my mom. Y'all know what I'm talking about, how they get, okay? No, I want to see you right there. I want to see your face. I want to see those facial expressions change from anger and everything else to where you can get to the point you can say, I'm sorry for how I behaved. Okay, that's what we need to do sometimes. Change your behavior. If you see somebody who's real happy-go-lucky to all of a sudden they turn around and become very negative, Debbie Downer, or vice versa, those are things we need to look out for also. Okay, there's nothing wrong with saying hello to people and greeting them. I teach the academy. I tell every one of our recruits all the time, when you come into work, you should say hello to every civilian and every officer you see. They're all your coworkers. And you never know. I may go up to somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? And that person may say, I'm really having a bad day. Okay, what's going on? What's the matter? That person may have had a death in the family. They may have somebody ill in the family. It doesn't have to be something necessarily mental ill, or it could be just some kind of a problem like that, and they may need a vent. Or they may be like, I got somebody in my family, they just had a stroke. I don't know how I'm going to care for them. I don't have anybody to stay with them. I have to work. I have to make the money. Try to help them figure a way to go ahead and, help them out. Find some resources for them. Okay, that's what we need to do. We need to reach out to each other instead of pushing each other away. So this one, I think he's going to have to push back there. Oh, no, it's working. Oh, wow, okay, good, he did, all right. This is going to show you the number of mass attacks, as we call it, that have happened since starting in 2000. And I want you guys to notice these dots are going to increase in intensity and speed. If it's a gun, it's going to be yellow dots, okay, just let you know. If it's a big dot, it's 4 or more. A knife is red. Remember, the big dot's 4 or more. And a car is blue, and that's going to be 4 or more for the big dots. Watch how it starts speeding up. And what I will let you know is this, is when it gets to the end, what the year it is, that we have had an active shooter or active mass casualty event in every single state and territory in the United States now at this point. So just kind of when you're watching this in your mind, I want you to think about the number of victims. Just think about how many you think when it stops, how many victims we're going to show you from 2000 to 2020. And you're going to see it speeding up now? That's kind of scary, isn't it?
There's more than one every day this year so far,
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of a terrifying thing to look at. It really is. And I'm a policeman and I see this stuff and I just go, oh my God. The amount of guns that the police department is taking off the street here in Newport News is mind-boggling. I don't even want to talk to you about it because it's liable to scare you. But the officers are doing a really good job. I got to give them credit for what they're doing. They're doing a really good job on trying to get guns off the street. But it's frightening how many guns are floating around there, how many are in the hands of young people, how many are in the hands of juveniles, and a lot of these guys can't see past the end of their nose, and they don't care who gets in the line of fire if they're angry at somebody. And a lot of times that's what we're dealing with is somebody gets mad at somebody else, and they start shooting, and they don't care about the crowd that's standing behind that person they're shooting at. And a lot of that is that there's a lack of empathy. It's the only thing I can think of is just a lack of empathy towards other people. Yes, sir.
Is this, a lot of this copycat?
Yes, a lot of it is starting to
Some
become
of it is, yes,
copycat. And that's why we said we got to be careful about, each one wants to be known as, I've got the highest number. Okay, so now one thing I want you to know, you see it's 404. That's between 2000 and 2020. Okay? Let me give you a little bit of an update. 2021, there were 693 shooting events with 703 dead, 2,842 injured. In 2022, there were 695 events, 762 dead, 2,902 injured. Now, as of April 23rd, and I apologize because I've been in training and stuff and haven't been able to update it since then, but as of April 23rd, there were already 135 events this year, 196 dead, and 470 injured. Now, y'all know there's already been at least 20, I think, more since then, if not more. Yes?
The number you just given us, is that Virginia or that nationwide?
Nationwide.
Okay.
But still, keep in mind, here's the scary thing. For 2022, we had 3 active shooting events here in Virginia. So keep that in mind. The last one was in Chesapeake at the Walmart. So it happens here too. I don't want y'all to think it doesn't, because it can happen. So this just kind of shows you, I thought this was very interesting with Time Magazine. This was from July of 2022. What they decided to go ahead and do to show how the increase of shootings is happening, all those lists up there, those are all of the mass shooting events that happened in 2022 as of July. That's a lot, don't y'all think? That's a lot. Took the whole cover. And you can see some you can't even read because, the writing and everything. I did cut off part of it because my address is on there. Sorry, I'd love to have y'all over for dinner, but, I can't do that. But I do want you to keep in mind, that is still very alarming. It really is. And I thought that was very impressive the way they did that, because I think that speaks volumes right there. That's a wake-up call as far as I'm concerned. If you didn't believe we had a problem before, sometimes things written in black and white don't lie, okay? So location of attacks, we're going to see a lot of times it's mostly in the commerce, like work-related and everything. We see it in education. Again, they're looking for target-rich, easy, and victims, if you want to call it, and everything else. Outdoors, some of you might remember a few years ago in California, I was amazed watching the news, and they were having a garlic festival, and all of a sudden they had somebody who started shooting at the garlic festival with their family and everything. I mean, think about around here how many food festivals and everything we have. And again, this is why I'm going to tell you about situational awareness a little bit. A lot of times we go to these things and all we want to know is, ooh, how does that macaroni and cheese taste? Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? We are so invested in what we're looking at or involved in doing, we forget about what's going on around us, okay? And then our churches and places like that, gyms, things like that. So we'll show you some things here. We do find a lot of times that there is a shooter connection. I will tell you this statistic is getting ready to change because we are finding now there is a bigger connection than people knew about, okay?
Connection to what?
Like as far as the victim, the shooter to the victim, I'm sorry. So let me show you, yes?
So you're saying that more than likely, if there's something happens in this room, we already know the person?
You may.
You might.
And it may not be because they know somebody in here personally. They may have a grudge against the church for some reason, okay? Just like if you think about that recent shooting at that private Christian school, that girl was a student there previously, okay? So even though she didn't know anybody there anymore, there was a connection, okay? So we have to be careful of that. So just to kind of go over a couple of events to show you what happens, and unfortunately, again, I want you guys to pay attention because you're going to hear when I say there were some red flags, warning signs. Okay, this was in Santa Barbara in 2014. This guy turned around, was the son of a Hollywood director, and his problem was he couldn't get dates. He couldn't get any girlfriends. He went on all these social media websites and everything, could not get any dates and everything else, could not get any girls to have fun with him, if you know what I'm saying. And he became very frustrated. So what he did was he lured 3 people into his apartment, he stabbed and killed them, and then he went and took his car to the campus and started running over and shooting people. And he was killed by the police. This young man turned around and he had a 10-page manifesto that he put on YouTube 9 to 10 days before he did this. And listen to what I'm saying, 9 to 10 days before he did this. So acquaintances and friends of his knew he was going to do something, okay? Red flag. You should be calling that in as suspicious, okay? And if you don't know who to call, always call 911. We'll redirect it to the appropriate people, okay? But most times, more than likely, I would tell you right now, we're the ones who are going to be the first responders. Anyhow, we're going to come out first, and then we'll call if we need a specialty unit or if it's the FBI, whoever we need to call, okay? But call, don't ignore this. This thing here could have been totally avoided. I'll give you another case here. The Pulse nightclub in Florida, this was an Islamic-inspired terrorist attack. This guy turned around, and I believe it was like 44 people that he killed there. And unfortunately, with this, think about when people are in bars or clubs and everything else, there's loud music, they may be drinking alcohol, so their reflexes are slowed down anyhow. I'm not going to be so quick to react to something. And when the shooting started, a lot of people didn't recognize it as a gunshot because the music was so loud and everything. This is the bad thing about this particular place. Where do you think most of the victims were found dead at? Bathrooms. Remember how we said people always know where the bathrooms are, but they don't know where the exits are. Okay, and that's where he found, and the bathrooms didn't have door locks or anything on them. That's where he found most of them. So here's the scary thing. This was not his first target. This was not his first target. Anybody know what his first target was? It was Disney World. He had actually made some drive runs at Disney World, putting weapons and everything in his car and everything, and the only thing that stopped it was that apparently Disney World has their own police department. Disney World's like its own little world, literally, anyhow. That's why the governor is trying to say, hey, Disney World's like, we're our own country. But Disney World has a police department that has dogs that work out in the parking lot. And the guy was scared to death of dogs, and when he saw the dogs, and he knew the dogs would smell the gunpowder or the bomb stuff, making material, anything he had, and so he gave up. He said, nope, I'm not going to do this one. The next one is going to be Las Vegas. A lot of us, we heard about this, remember this one. This is something I want you guys, again, to keep in mind, too. When you go to a big event like this, do you see that white fencing back there? That fencing's not going to provide any protection. That's what they call like net or snow fencing. That's just to kind of keep people in the area, especially if it's an area where you're supposed to be drinking or where you're at. And if you guys have ever been to a concert, even around here, when they turn the lights on, there's always garbage on the ground. People just don't clean it up themselves. So that's another obstacle in itself. So if you are anywhere like at a, like this, what you need to make sure that you remember to do is don't run straight. You need a zigzag run. Keep running, keep running. Don't just lay on the ground and everything else because it's not going to help you. Okay, you need a zigzag run. This guy, again, we still don't know the whole motive for why he did it. They're thinking there's been rumors that he had lost big or something like that in cards or something. I don't think that's the case. I'm not sure, but he was mentally ill. His original target was not this concert. His original target was the airport that was over beyond it. He was trying to shoot for the propane tanks to go ahead and create chaos. And the whole purpose for that was, from what his girlfriend had said, was that he wanted all the police and first responders to go to the airport. That way he'd have the strip and he could just shoot all the people on the strip. That, again, target availability. Remember I said that, okay? So again, kind of keep in mind. Now this one I put up here too because here is one that has come back this year, and I'll explain. This was a guy who turned around, and can you guys tell where he rented that truck from? Home Depot, 1999. He rented that truck. He went ahead and took his truck on Halloween in New York, and he turned around and went on the bike lane, and I think he killed like 8 people and he injured 22 people. So one thing I want you to keep in mind, if you notice they're arresting him there, he gave up, okay? He just got sentenced this year. It just finally came to trial. I don't know if y'all had seen it on the news and everything else. Anybody know what he got, what his sentencing was? He got life in prison. But how many of you have heard this year, earlier in New York, we had another person who ran a truck and tried to run people over. and he was trying to copycat this guy. So that's why we said we got to be careful because we're having the copycats that are out here, okay? This is in Texas. This was at a church. This guy was a dishonorably discharged Air Force veteran who had some issues. He went into the church. He ended up killing 26 people in the church. He went out to his car to go reload, and when he went to go reload, there was a gentleman who lived in the neighborhood who heard the shooting. He came over. He shot the guy. The guy tried to take off in his truck, but he wrecked his truck. Here's the sad thing about this one. This one also is getting a lot of attention again. Has anybody heard about this one in the news? You want to know why it's getting attention? Because the families and survivors have sued the Air Force for over $40 million because they knew he had mental health issues, and when they discharged him, they never gave him treatment or follow-up.
They also didn't put him, he should have gone to.
Use your mic.
Another thing is they're supposed to report this stuff, and it goes into a national database of mentally ill people, and that's for gun checks. He should not have been allowed to purchase firearms. But the Air Force, this guy slipped through. Don't know if it was laziness, somebody misplaced the paperwork, no telling as to what happened. And the Air Force is insane. And this gentleman was allowed to purchase firearms that he would not have been able to purchase if they had followed the proper protocol.
So they're going to start holding people more accountable. Now, I know some people will say, well, you can't predict everybody who's going to go off and this and that. But again, there's a pattern. We see red flags that were going up. This guy also posted things on social media. You know, so again, friends saw it, nobody reported it. You know, some people thought, well, he's just angry, he's just upset. You know, some people will act like, well, he gets angry and he just needs to vent and everything else too. I'm sorry, if you've got somebody who's venting and they're saying they want to hurt people or harm people, that is not healthy venting. Okay, you need to go ahead and take note of that. Go over a couple more things. Number of deaths, again, is target availability, how quickly the police arrive. How fast do you think the police can arrive in an active shooting event? What do you think is the nationwide average?
3 minutes?
Yeah, 3 minutes. Okay. I will tell you this, if this makes you feel any better. We had the shooting down there at Heritage. I was around the corner at Booker T, and I heard the call come through. I'm not going to tell y'all how fast I went. But I was there in less than 30 seconds, and there were already so many law enforcement. Listen to how I'm saying this. Law enforcement. We had people from Hampton. We had people from the Sheriff's Department. We had ATF, DEA. Any law enforcement person you could think was. I had to park 3 blocks away. And that was okay, because when I got there, then of course they assigned me the really fun assignment. I had the parent-student reunite. And believe it or not, the interesting thing is that the kids weren't the problem, the parents were the problem. Because of course, I'm a parent. If I heard that, I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably be out there, you know, I want to see my kids, get out of the way, let me get my kids. But I have to give them credit because they were very organized. We had the kids in this one area. They quickly started getting kids on the buses to get out of there too, but they also had it where we had about 600 kids by the tennis courts. I don't know who this lady is. I'm still trying to find out who she was. But by the grace of God, she had her laptop, her school laptop there with her. And when you look up the student's picture pops up and it shows who their legal guardian or parent and everything is. So when the parents were coming up, somebody had a bullhorn. Again, pre-planning makes a big difference. Had that bullhorn, would yell, and don't forget too, Heritage also has Huntington Middle School on the top floor, so you have 2 schools in one, would yell for that particular family, you know, because they're siblings, come on over here, your parents are over here. She was checking, making sure that's the parent. I turned around, took a picture, the parent took a picture of the kids, go get out. We got those kids, 600 kids out in less than 10 minutes. Okay? I don't know who, I'm still trying, I've told her, but I keep still trying to find, I don't think she stayed there teaching there. I think she left because I think it just kind of frightened her so much. But during the crisis, she was so together and organized, and I don't know how or why that gentleman thought about the bullhorn. He wasn't even a PE teacher. He just said he saw it on TV one time, somebody grabbing a bullhorn, yelling to get families together. And I had, doing one of these presentations, I had some people who were very upset. Parents were saying, well, I don't like the fact that my kids are getting, you know, lockdown practices and these drills and everything else too. And I actually had 4 students, well, they were college students at that point, who were at Heritage, and they told the adults, they said, you know what, be glad we're having these drills because when the shooting happened, we knew what to do. We ran and we got cover and everything. So, keep that in mind. Also, just to kind of keep in mind, too, a couple things about people knowing and learning stuff. Let me make sure I'm getting on the right slide here, too. We're going to go over this in just a second. But just to kind of keep in mind, too, when I said about Virginia having cases, remember with the Walmart, on November 22nd this past year, they had 6 killed. The gunman took his own life. You guys probably remember hearing that one also, social media posts and everything, too. One thing to keep in mind, too, and I apologize, I can never say the name of the school in Texas. Thank you. I don't know why. I can say it when I'm talking normally to other police officers. I get in front of y'all, I get tongue-tied. Here's something I want to let you guys know that I just found out because I'm part of the CRASE team that teaches all this and certified and everything. And they sent us a message on this the other day, which I thought was very interesting. That situation happened back on May 24th. He killed 19 students, 2 teachers, 17 others were injured but survived. He was shot by police, but here's what's interesting. Most of you probably know that he shot his grandmother at home prior to going to the school. What a lot of people didn't realize is that he was communicating with a 15-year-old German student that was over in Germany. And he was communicating to her for 2 weeks prior to this, I'm going to shoot up the school. I'm going to shoot my grandmother. When he shot his grandmother, he messaged her and said, hey, I shot my grandmother. Her response was, cool. He went to the school and he was messaging her, and they think that's why he had the car accident, because he was texting her. And again, her response was cool. He messaged her again while he was in the school, and she said, really? Seriously? So just to kind of let you know, and this is why I'm not advocating what kind of gun control we need to have and everything here, but I will let you know what Germany did to the girl. Y'all want to know what Germany did to the girl? Germany turned around, even though she's 15 years old, they went ahead and they charged her with failure to report planned crimes. And she went ahead and she went to court and everything. She didn't serve any jail time. However, she is on probation for the next 20 years. So she cannot have any social media. I thought that was pretty impressive that Germany did that. For a crime that happened here in the United States. But again, when you're doing all these threats over the internet, it can be made into a national or international crime. Okay, so again, I try to make sure people hear about some positive things that are being done, because we always hear the negative. So just want you to know that. Now, just to kind of let you know, this video, I think we're going to skip over this video. That's what I told you. I thought we were going to skip over this one here. This is just, keep this right here, but when I go the other one, I'll tell you when. What I want you guys to understand, when it comes time for disaster things to happen, these are the 3 ways that people are going to go ahead and respond. They're going to go ahead denial. Remember the guy playing peekaboo at the store? This can't really be happening. Let me look around the corner. Then you have deliberation. That's when you have to start making a decision. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I've got to start moving now. And then that decisive moment is when you are actually going to go ahead, and if you have to fight for your life, you're going to fight for your life. And if you decide, I'm going to let you guys know right now, if you decide you get to the point that you're going to have to fight that gunman, please realize one thing, there's no turning back. Okay? There's no turning back. So we're not going to worry about this thing. This is the video we're going to play. We're going to skip this video. Okay. All right, deliberation, because all that video shows is they're in London. It's just showing people being apathetic and denial, where there's people that are laying down on the ground pretending to be hurt and sick, and people just walk right by them and don't report anything. We already know that happens, unfortunately, so we don't need to see that again. But deliberation, this is why I want to kind of get in the meat and potatoes here. Why it's so important to start doing things. Your stress response, this is what gets people hemmed up. And this is what I want you guys to think about. We're all right now, our heartbeat is about 60 beats per minute. Okay? We're relaxed, we're okay in here and everything else. But I want you to think about if you're home by yourself, especially maybe at night. You're home by yourself. First, let me ask you this, how many of y'all have dogs? Okay, for those of you who had dogs, just out of curiosity, you ever had your dog bark, you tell your dog, shut up? You ever done that? Be honest. We have, haven't we? Because sometimes the dogs get annoying. You're like, what are you barking at? Don't tell your dog to shut up. Get up and go see what the dog's barking at. Okay? You need to get up and go see it. The dog's barking for a reason. So let's say you hear a noise downstairs, you hear something at the window, and you deny it, oh, it's just the wind blowing or something, storm is supposed to come through. You ignore it. But your heart might be beating out 90 beats per minute. So now let's go ahead and say that you hear possibly a glass breaking or the door breaking in. Your heart's going to start really beating then, isn't it? You're going to be now up to 120, maybe to 150. Now you hear somebody coming up, and you might be up to 175, and you're going to freeze. You're not going to be able to react because all that denying while you're denying and you're hearing things escalating and you not responding, doing deliberation and getting in that decisive moment, doing something, what happens is you're getting less oxygen to your brain because your heart's beating faster and faster and you can't respond to the stressful event. So that's why we tell you, when you start hearing or see something, you need to start acting. Whether it's running away or whatever, you need to start reacting, because the more, like even when we go on calls for service, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, there's been some times I've gone where I can actually feel my heart pounding out of my chest, and I'm sitting there and I gotta, take a couple breaths before I go in, or, especially when we're going into somebody where somebody's shooting and stuff and you can hear the shooting going, you hear it and you're like, okay, you've got to get yourself kind of mentally there too. So when you hear something, start paying attention. Don't ignore it. There was even one time where we turned around and I have a marked police unit in front of our house, and we had somebody for a while who was breaking into police cars. My dog barked. At first I kind of ignored it. I was like, oh, it's just a stupid dog, Well, then I finally got up and I was like, they've been breaking into police cars. So I went out there and, we all have those lovely little emergency things on our key ring. So I hit it for my police car. When it went, boom, there was somebody running away from my police car. The next morning when we could see better, you could see where the rubber stripping around the window, they were trying to break in. Now, they would have been doomed to disappointment because all that's in my police car are coloring books and crayons. So anyway, because I'm a community resource officer, I've been disappointed. But anyway, just keep in mind, you want to start reacting, okay? And like I said, get away as fast as you can. Start calling 911 when you're in a safer place, okay? Don't be right there like just frozen and call it. Now, remember we talked about your stress response, how you can't think. How many of y'all have had children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews, okay? We know when we put kids like in strollers and car seats, it becomes a routine thing, doesn't it? The way you put those straps on and everything else, and you get them off and, easily and everything else. What I want you to think about is, remember the lady with the stroller we had earlier? I want you to see what happens here when she's trying to get her kid out of the stroller, something that's so routine, and watch what happens when you're under a stressful situation. There she is. What do you notice? Still strapped in, okay? Now, I will let you know, Mama Bear just broke the straps. That's what she did. That's how she finally got the kid out. She broke the straps, okay? But something so routine as that, we're under stress. You see how you can't function? I had gone to a conference a few years ago. We actually had some survivors from the Colorado movie shooting theater there, and I was really surprised in a way, because when I went to it, they were telling us that the guys had PTSD, the survivors, and they were saying they can't get the clicking out of their head. And I'm like, the clicking out of your head? And I'm thinking, changing the rounds and all this and that, the shells falling and everything. They said, no, the clicking from the chairs. I'm like, what? And they said they were sitting in the theater with the chairs, the recliners, and that when the shooting started, natural reaction pushed the button to go up, but because the stress response, the brain couldn't think because the heart's beating so fast, they were doing this, click, 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 click. And guess what the seats were doing? Up, down, up, down. Instead of getting out of the seats, they stayed in their seats. And that's why there were so many victims in that. Okay, so again, keep these things in mind. Don't deny it and everything. You need to go ahead and make sure you start responding. Deliberation, knowing where you're going to go. I'm going to show you real quick. This is a club that was up in New England. This guy had all kinds of fire violations and everything else too. He didn't care. All he wanted to do was make money. And again, remember what we said before about knowing where your exits are. Okay, you're going to see. Do you see where the number 4 is up there? Way up there. Pointer. Ah, love it. It's green too. Number 4 right there. You're going to see in a video in just a minute of what it looked like inside when this event happens here. This is a fire event. Doesn't have to always be shooting and everything, okay? But that particular door, you see your doors here, they have exits over them. All your exit doors are supposed to have those signs. This guy did not have one on there. He had all kinds of fire violations. And keep in mind one very important thing too. A lot of the people, they knew that this right here, this was the way people came in and out. They knew that was the same way they came in and out. Here is where the band was performing, everybody went here. Now, this was an exit here. See where the kitchen is? Wherever you go, if there's a kitchen, there's always an exit outside the kitchen because they always take deliveries. Okay, so keep that in mind, all right? Now, what happened is this guy, turns out, I said, had these people who were in there performing, and they decided they wanted to shoot off pyrotechnics inside there. And the guy had just put the spray foam, acoustical foam, sprayed in there a few days earlier because the neighbors were complaining about the sound. What you're going to notice is you're going to see how long it takes for the fire alarm to go off. And then you're going to see where the people, where they don't know where the exits are, they're all going to try to go out the same way. see the smoke now? See where it's on fire there? 30 seconds for the fire alarm to go off. Now, as you watch the people leave and everything, you're going to notice that there is more and more smoke starting to build up because that foam apparently was very flammable. And we know that when there's a fire, there's always going to be smoke, right? People are coming in, going out the same way they came in. You're going to see more and more smoke behind these people in this minute. See all that smoke coming now? What do most people die from? Smoke inhalation. Okay, 1 minute. Now people are panicking because they're realizing they can't get out. So what I want you to know, this is kind of graphic what I want to show you, but I do want to show you something here. Again, not knowing your exits. Always figure out where your exits are and everything else. You see where it says a 31? That was where 31 victims were found because that's where people came in and out. The one that's by the dance floor, that was one of the band members. They couldn't get out. The 18 right there, those are people waiting to filter into where the main entrance exit was. You can see where other people headed back towards like the bathrooms or where the video games were, thinking there were doors out that way. The one person who did make it into the kitchen and the main bar, they were overcome by smoke inhalation. That's what they died from, okay? Now, some people did break the glass out where it says the game tables there, the 18 feet. Some people did get out that way. But remember I said, knowing your exits, because if you don't, and this is kind of graphic, but I'll let you know, the people kind of basically, they crushed themselves the doorway. Those are all the people who passed away. They're dead. They could not get out because they crushed themselves to death. Know your exits, okay? Know your exits. Find where they're at. I mean, yes, go ahead.
We had an egg hunt out here Easter, and I wanted to go see how it was going. It's in the front yard. Open that door. People were saying, "There's a door there."
Yeah.
So we haven't had a fire. We haven't had practice session. A lot of people, even though they're lit up, they may not see them with the post or something, or just human nature.
Right, and I mean, think about this. When we're in elementary school, we had like, remember we had like fire drills and stuff like that, you know, and then, you know, then they went to tornado drills, and, you know, now we have like I said, these lockdown drills, unfortunately. But think about even our workplaces, and I'm probably telling on the police department, I know y'all are recording this, so please ignore this, but just to give you an example of what something not to do. I know for when I was working at headquarters for a while, whenever the fire alarm went off, they would tell you to wait a minute, and they would send you an email letting you know whether or not it was, a test, am I correct? So I remember hearing at one time, and I was on the second floor, working on the second floor, and he's working in the building over across the hall there, and I'm like, I heard the alarm go off, and everybody's looking at me, I said, I'm getting out of here. I said, I gotta walk down them stairs, I'm getting out of here. And they're like laughing at me, oh, you know, you're funny, you're funny. So I get out of the building. Well, when I got to the first floor, people are hollering, oh my gosh, the third floor, there's a fire in the computer room. There was a fire, you know, and everybody was waiting for that daggone, you know, email to come out. And I'm like, no, and I mean, he was out there waiting for me. He goes, boy, if you hadn't come out, I was gonna, and I was like, no, I came out, I paid attention. I'm not gonna play around or anything. But again, we don't practice this even at work. So even when you guys, those of you who are working and everything, maybe get together with your fellow coworkers and stuff, and just, even if you don't actually practice it, discuss it once in a while. Hey, what will we do if this happened? Where will we go? You know, if this way was blocked, what were our other exit or options and everything be? This is so small to see, but this is just a lady who was working out at a place and the gunman came in, and again, she luckily survived, but a lot of people didn't. And her statement was, I didn't know how to get out. I only knew how to get the same way to get in and out. I didn't know any other exits. So we want to make sure you do know your exits. So when we talk about deliberation too, we want to make sure you calm yourself, breathe, shift your emotions, stay fit. Staying fit does not mean, oh yeah, I can do 150 jumping jacks. It means your state of mind. It means your state of mind. Being able to go ahead and go through with stuff and barricade yourself, do whatever you have to do. So let's go ahead and we're going to show you it's important to practice. A lot of people don't think about this. This is Rick Rescorla. He was from the World Trade Center, and he was there when the original bombings happened in the 90s. And he worked for Dean Whittier, and he told them, we really need to practice, you know, these fire drills. They were like the number of, I think it was the 67th floor, and his company was like, oh, you're overreacting and everything. He goes, well, if I'm overreacting, I'm going to quit. And they're like, no, we want you. We want to keep you. We need you here. You're really good. So he said, okay, this is what I want to do. He goes, twice a year, I want everybody from our floor evacuated by the stairs, by the stairs. So he was very smart because what he did was he did have some coworkers that were handicapped and couldn't walk. So he had these, they call them sling seats, where it's like a very like cloth, rubbery seat thing, and like he would take one end, I would take the other, the person would sit on it, and not to be funny, you drag the person. You're not going to worry about carrying them like Cleopatra, okay? You're going to drag them. You want to get down the stairs. But that way it ensures everyone gets out of the building. So he did this and everything, and people made fun of him. When 9/11 happened, he turned around, and when he knew the plane had hit, he told all of his people, get out of the building. Port Authority had said, no, don't evacuate yet. We're trying to assess what's going on and everything else too. He said, no, I'm getting my people out. He is credited with saving over 2,700 lives that day. He got everyone in his business out except for himself and a security guard who went back up. The thing I never knew about until they showed us with this guy, with the World Trade Center, we're used to big, tall buildings or even multi-story buildings, the stairwells on the sides. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? Well, the World Trade Center, what happens is they would go down like 5 flights, and then you'd have to cross over a walkway and then go down because of the steel beams, because the building being so tall. You couldn't just build it and not have anything. That's why I wondered too when I first, why are all these steel beams? Y'all know what I'm talking about? And it was because they were the crosswalks. Well, a lot of people, because they never did fire drills, when they opened up that door, they just saw a walkway to another closed door, and I thought, oh my God, there's nowhere for me to go. And that's why a lot of people couldn't get out, because they hadn't practiced, didn't know. So again, practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. With the civilian response, if you hear this, okay. Sorry that was so loud at first, but however, some of you jumped, and that was good, because you know what? If you hear something like you should jump, but then what should you start doing? Move. Move. Look for those exits. Don't be, was that a gunshot? No. You need to move. Get going. Go, go, go. Okay? You don't want to sit there and wait and everything else too. You don't want to play dead, because I'm going to show you, this is a girl from Virginia Tech that unfortunately she played dead. I want you to listen to what she said. Remember we talked about denial earlier, but people not wanting to admit what's going on? She's going to describe the sound of the shooting as somebody using an axe. Now, there are no shop classes or anything on the floor of the area where she was at, so I want you guys to remember that for me, okay? But listen to what she says. And by the way, she was shot 3 times.
We heard the first shots at around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. I mean, there was only a few seconds between the first time we heard them and when he actually walked in. To me, it sounded like an axe being taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher, she opened the door, and she peered outside, and she immediately shut the door, and she said, call 911. And right then, he walked in just seconds after. There's absolutely no time to think or to duck or to take cover, and people just kind of fell to the floor. And he immediately walked in shooting, and he went to the other side of the classroom, and he started going down the rows. He went down each row very quickly, very purposefully. And I remember thinking, your turn is coming. You're going to get shot. I mean, I didn't realize there was an active shooter, but I knew something bad was happening. He came back to our classroom 3 times, and on the 3rd time, he killed himself in the front of the class. In between each time he was there, you could just hear people crying and coughing, and the cell phone started ringing. When he was in our class, I remember trying not to breathe very much, so he couldn't tell I was alive. Because as my stomach was hitting the chair, I was thinking, he can see me breathing, he can see me alive, and that was very scary. I'll never forget when the SWAT team first broke in at around 9:51. The officer in the front of the classroom said, we have a lot of blacks in here. And at the time, I couldn't comprehend what he was talking about, but he meant triage codes. And I remember looking into the girl to my right and realizing, what black meant. He looked over me and he said, first he said yellow, and then he changed it immediately and he said red. And that's when I first started panicking. I still couldn't speak. I was shot 3 times, lying on my back, and I remember thinking, what do you see? Like, what can you see on me that I can't, that you would change me from yellow to red? He killed 12 people in my classroom, including our teacher.
Now, one thing I do want to let you know that was a positive what this young lady did was she was one of the leaders who started getting the alert systems that the colleges and universities use now to go ahead and let people know when there's an active event happening. So she used what happened with this and everything to go ahead and get that. So, you know, again, I want to let people know sometimes that sometimes people can learn things and create a positive thing for future use, okay? So we don't want you to do this. This is like, you know, like praying, hope, and hide and everything. We don't want you to do this because you get into this, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not into yoga, and if I'm in that position and the opportunity presents itself for me to be able to go ahead and run, I'm not going to be able to get out that well, okay? Plus, I want you to keep in mind the materials that's made out of that, the desk there, they're not going to be cover, okay? You want to go ahead and be able to keep moving, keep trying to get away from the person. If you can't keep moving, we're going to show you what you can do, okay? So this is the video. I want to show you a video that Walmart made years ago before any of these shootings happened. But this is going to show you how we've been talking about don't deny it. You need to go ahead and hide or run. And also, if you have to, you can go ahead and barricade yourself. Or if you have to fight the person, what you need to do. One thing I want you to notice is you're going to see the shoppers in the beginning, again, totally unaware of what's going on around them. Because when we're shopping, a lot of times we're focused on that, aren't we? Oh, this is real cute. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? Or you gentlemen, you know, yeah, look at this manly man lawn thing or whatever. Y'all know, okay? We're like that, okay? We just get totally with that. So if you could go ahead and play that video for me. It takes just a second to load up. I feel like I'm in the way here.
Give me a second. There we go.
Okay, great.
It's playing.
Okay. If you guys don't care, I'm going to sit for a second.
There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
Do anything last weekend? It was very nice, wasn't it?
Right about it is the new system enhancement. What's going to be the solution by the time we...
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Actually think he's got an old, well, he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested.
Remember I said about greeting people too? When you go to stores, they greet people. This is why you should. Doesn't even greet them. Is that suspicious bringing in a big bag? Earplugs? He does the right thing. He's running, okay?
Yeah, definitely. Now, she figured out what college she wants to go to?
911, what's your emergency? We need help. There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
Issues that we found. Okay, Emily, see what that is. See what's going on. Just let us know what you find out.
There's a man with a gun. He's right there.
What's the law? Some lights.
So they told lock the door, turn the lights out because it's been found that if gunmen go by rooms that are dark, no sound, they're going to look for they're looking for targets, okay? They're going to walk by them. Because that's not providing an easy target.
Right, County. There you go. You're safe for that.
There's a guy with a gun shooting. Look.
James, we don't have
No, look.
Run! 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 To the right! To the right! To the loading dock! Come on, this way, this way, this way!
Oh, no, come here.
Yeah, in here, in here. The gunman's coming.
What are we going to do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're going to see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight, all right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Get the gun! Hey! Hold him down, hold him down!
Okay, if you can stop that one there. Just to let you guys know, I want you to keep in mind one thing. If you notice the lady was kind of like, I want to see my granddaughter, I want to see my daughter, you know how she was saying that? You're going to find there's always going to be some people who are going to be what I call the followers, okay? That one gentleman was definitely a leader, wasn't he? He designated the other two people what to do. Even though he knew the young man was able to help him physically attack the guy, when they told the lady what to do, what did she do? She moved the gun, didn't she? They said, get the gun, get the gun. She got the gun out of the way. She was able to follow their direction. So when you're in a really stressful situation like this, you may find sometimes your followers can listen to directions and function, okay? But keep that going on and everything too. Again, you notice the people were kind of oblivious what was going on around them. I know some people were like, if I were that lady, I want to go and look at the door back there in that meeting room and see that. But think about it. Somebody's got to look and everything. By her looking, she could identify there was a problem. And the thing we tell people is when you do put yourself into a room and you lock yourself in a room and turn the lights out and everything, you need to silence the cell phones all the way. And that includes the vibration mode. Because some of these phones, when they start going off, y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? You can hear them and everything. And, you know, you want to make sure it's turned off because if the gunman is going around and they don't see or hear anything from that and the door's locked, again, they're going to look for that easier target. But if all of a sudden they hear that cell phone vibrate, they're going to shoot the door and everything. They're going to go after you then. Okay? So again, you have to keep thinking. You have to keep thinking and everything. Remember we said before, that mindset, keep it, okay, physically fit. So one of the things you want to do, I'm sorry, can I go back? Can I go back? Oh, I love this clicker. This clicker may come back home with me. Deliberation is, again, you can avoid or run, deny, hide, or defend and fight. So we're going to show you some things, like I said, on how to do it. Situational awareness is so, so important. And if you look at these pictures, that first one, everybody's on their cell phone. You know, we see this at restaurants all the time, don't we? And if something happened, even a fire, it doesn't have to be a shooter or something happened quickly, do you think these people are going to be aware that fast of what happened? Okay? No, they're not going to be. Of course, I hope you're not going to swim with a shark. All right? Now, that top one with the door propped open, that is one of my biggest pet peeves. Because I know when I substitute in the schools as a school resource officer, I go by and it never fails. I find doors propped open all the time. And I tell these teachers, and I even nag my own daughter about it, I said, if you ever go in there, and let's say you've got to bring some stuff for your class that day for a project or something, get it with another teacher and tell them, hey, I need a cart. Can you bring a cart to the door? Get there a few minutes earlier. Get to the door, put your stuff on the cart, go back, or go in there now with the cart with your stuff. That way you don't have to prop the door open. Have the other teacher hold the door for you. That way the door is closed properly afterwards. Do not prop doors, even for people that work. I went to a business the other day, and it was for a factory. I did their CRASE presentation, and the lady said to me, you do me a favor before you do it? And I said, sure. She goes, will you walk around the back and take a look and present what you find? I said, sure. Every single door is propped open. And they're in an industrial park area, and all around them is woods, nothing else. And they've already had 4 or 5 employees who've had a fire in the last 2 weeks. And that's why they had me come, because they're afraid they're going to come back and do some action. So why are the doors propped open? It's everybody's responsibility, okay? And like I said, they used to get mad at me when I was substituting in Menchville because every time I found a door propped open, I'd kick that doorstop right out. Oh, that's going to be locked, you know? They didn't like me because I had the master key, so I locked all the doors. They didn't like me very much when I was there. That's okay. The last 3 things, the bottom down there, those are just some safety things doing, like even a mom taking her kids across the crosswalk the right way, teaching young people at a very early age safety things. First time I took my kids to a concert, you know, it was kind of funny because we were telling our kids, you know where things are. We wouldn't let them go by themselves when they were younger either. And we used to tell them, you know, where were the exits and all. And I remember when AMC first opened up, and I joked around with my kids, and I said, okay, where's the emergency exit? And I had taken my daughter and some of her girlfriends to go see that terrible Britney Spears' only movie she ever made. Oh, you know, fumes are coming off the screen if y'all know what I'm talking about. It stunk so bad. But I remember sitting there, and it was a new theater, and I told my daughter, I said, okay, so girls, where are the emergency exits? They go, okay, Miss Young, they're over here. They're going like that because they get aggravated with me. And I said, okay, is there another one? They go, yeah, there's one up top there. I'm like, okay, do you know where the one on top goes? And they're like, no. I said, go up there. They go up there, and all that was to an open balcony on the second floor up there at the AMC theaters. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no stairs or anything. So you go out that exit. So that's what I said, when you go somewhere, like when we go to the concerts at Virginia Beach and Portsmouth, even tell your kids, something happens, where are you going to go? And don't say you're going to run over the back of that hill, because the back of that hill at Virginia Beach, it's a 70-foot drop to the parking lot. At Portsmouth, it's a 42-foot drop. There's no stairs or anything. So you need to think about which way, which side, where are you going to go, okay? Have a plan. And I'm not trying to say scare your kids or anything, but make them aware. Another thing, I'm going to see if I can borrow somebody here. Who can I borrow? Can I borrow my friend with the hat back there? Ma'am, yes, can I borrow you, please? I promise you I'm not going to hurt you or anything. Come on up here for a minute. Let me borrow you just for a second.
Oh.
Okay. No, I know you did too. If you would do me a favor, if you'll stand facing everybody just for a moment, okay? All right, I want you guys to take a look at her for a minute, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and count. And what I'm doing is when I count, I want you to just look at her for a minute, okay? And I want you to figure out 3 things to describe her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stop. Some of you were looking at me going, what am I doing? I was creating a distraction. Because think about it. If you have a shooter or something come in, you're going to be distracted, aren't you? Okay? So give me some descriptions. Okay, here are some things. Okay, yeah, you give me the obvious descriptors, okay? But we need to know the race, the gender. You need to make sure you do that too, okay? If you have a description of what their hair texture can be like or whatever, things like that. Now, what I want you, can I ask you a couple things if you don't mind? Could you take your glasses off for me? Could you take your hat off?
No, I can't.
Okay, would you take your jacket off? That's okay. But I want you to keep one thing in mind. If she were to take her glasses and even her jacket off here, does that change her appearance right there already? Yes. Okay. We need to really look at when we're describing somebody. You don't have to worry about saying 5'5" and everything. I would say, no offense, Matt, because you're a little bit shorter than me. That's kind of nice. That's for a change. I'm usually short. Short. Okay. I would go ahead and I would say a slim build. Okay.
Oh, you're so kind.
Oh, that's okay. Think about skin tone, texture. Are there any tattoos, scars, marks, tattoos? Some of you did bring up her earrings. Sometimes earrings can be taken out, sometimes they can't, okay? Do people wear earrings in other places too on their face? Nose, other places, right? Okay, I'm glad to see you don't have one. But just keep this in mind, all right? And if she took her hat off, that'd be a really totally different look, okay? And what I want you guys to realize, the reason I do this is because down when they had the Parkland school shootings down there, the shooter actually turned around and took his clothes off that he was seen shooting in, and he walked right out with the kids when they were evacuating them. And the only reason he was caught was because another kid saw him and told the police officer, hey, that kid shouldn't even be here, he's been expelled. And when the kid heard that, he took off running. So thank you for letting me use you. Thank you so much, I appreciate it, okay? So practice, and people laugh when I say this, practice even with your kids and your family when you go places, describing people, as far, and think about this too. Does a person walk with a kind of a weird walk? Do they have an accent? And some people go, well, that doesn't mean they're from another country. Think about even here in the South, how many different Southern accents there are. Or you get somebody from Connecticut or New York or something, he gave me a hard time because people think I'm from the South, and I was born in Georgia, but I was an Army brat. I lived in Connecticut a lot of my life. That's why I talk so fast. The drunk people hate me because I get them. I'm going, how fast do you want me talking? You still understand what I'm saying? I go, what did you say? So again, think, is there an accent and stuff like that? And a good way to practice that is, believe it or not, even if you're at the mall or something, or you're eating at a restaurant, even with your family members, just practice. Please don't do this. My God, what is she wearing? Don't do that, okay? Please don't do that. And don't do negative things to your kids. Just say to your kids, like, I spy somebody that has a tattoo on their left arm. What is the tattoo? Do you know what the tattoo looks like? Just like that. Do it quietly and everything. Make it a game and everything else. But it gets good observational skills and good situational awareness, okay? So keep that in mind while you're doing that. So here's another reason why you need, this is a school board hearing in Florida. Unfortunately, these guys ignored this guy's wife had been fired as a teacher. You're going to hear the crowd kind of go, at one point, again, that denial thing, people are denying, they don't get up, start getting away and everything else too. And then you're going to see when the shooter lets some of the people go, the people pick up their pocketbooks, push their chairs in and everything. If you have the opportunity to get away, what do you need to do? Run. And if you can't run, you move as quickly as you can, okay?
And from the technology, you'll notice it's on the chart that you have there, and it's part of the plan that we have, that the workshop we're going to have following this meeting, but this will be the first step in that whole process. I have a motion. A motion. Everybody in this room, behind that counter, hit the road.
See how he said everybody get away? Look at the one lady hiding underneath her desk. Let's get our coats, pick up our pocketbooks. Oh, and then we got to push our chair in up there too, with the school board thing there, okay?
Hey, sir. John, just let him talk. He's talking. John, go ahead. Ginger.
Yep, think about this. Did that lady give them an opportunity to take him on? Yes, because how many of you noticed when she hit him, what did you notice he did with the gun? Put it down. Yep, they lost that opportunity. That lady was pretty gutsy. Now, he didn't hurt her, luckily. And ladies, think about this. Some of our pocketbooks weigh a ton, don't they? He gives me a hard time when I ask him to hold my pocketbook, and he's like, my gosh, what do you got in that bag? And I'm like, that's my secret. But again, keep in mind, they could be used as weapons or anything if, God forbid, something like this happens, okay? But don't turn around and lose that opportunity. But again, remember, like I told you, once you commit to it, you have to follow through. And she didn't talk to the other people, but she was assuming they were going to go ahead. And I would have assumed the same thing too, okay? But we can't make those assumptions. We have to make sure we communicate with people. So again, we already talked about running, knowing your exits and everything else, making sure you call 911. We have to do it. This is that same store. If you see people running out of cars, does everybody see that? Yeah. Now you're going to see a couple more people running out of their cars and running out of the store there. See the guy told the people in the car to get out. You're going to see them get out, see them running out and everything. If you notice, they're running away from the door, away from the shooting. Does everybody notice that? It's a one-way street. They're not running towards it. They're running away from it. And that's what you need to do. You keep running or walking as fast as you can, as far away as you can. If you notice the Walmart video, the girl got behind a car for cover and everything too before she called 911. Okay, get to where you think is a safe spot before you do it. This person, unfortunately, they went back here, and one thing they made a big mistake over is if you look right here, that's the door they came in. What should they have done with that door? They should have shut it. They should have shut it. And consider secondary exits. Are there any other places that they could possibly get out right now? Yeah, ladder. There's another door right there. Absolutely. Don't just sit there and stop and think you're okay, especially when she didn't even barricade the door. Y'all got what I'm saying? Okay? Keep trying to go. That door may have been slammed shut, but I can guarantee right now, if it wasn't locked, there's an exit right there. If the gunman comes back there, doesn't see anybody or hear anybody, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to leave. Okay, and you're already outside, and you're down the road and everything. We talk about making sure you lock the door, lights out, be out of sight of the window, don't stand in front of the window and everything. We don't want you to do that. Barricade, if you're even here in the church and something were to happen, these chairs are great. Just be familiar. He figured out how to get the chair out. Be familiar with how these chairs work because they're locked. Again, that's knowing situational awareness, knowing how these chairs work. And even if you had to, you could work together as a group and you could probably get the whole row up against the doors, okay? Put as many, stack. You could take this thing, put it right to go ahead and put it against one of the doors. You put whatever you have to. Okay, I'll put him in front of the door. No, I'm just kidding. You just do. Seriously, get what you can. You've got a table right there, back there, by those doors right there. Think about what you have, okay, to use. The more you can put against that door, the better off you can be. Again, this person didn't deny or hide. They've got carts and all kinds of stuff in here they could have used to put against the door, and they didn't do it. I love rubber door stops. I don't like the wood ones because the wood ones always tend to slide and they don't stay. Rubber door stops work on any surface. Now, when I'm talking about the rubber door stops, if we're here in this room and something were to happen, where those doors are there, you would put the rubber door stops on the inside so people can't get in. It wedges it. Does that make sense what I'm saying to you guys? And if you look back there at those doors, you'll see at the bottom there is a pretty big space at the bottom of the door there. Can you do me a favor? Can you close that other door for me for just a moment? And I'm not trying to scare y'all. I'm just trying to educate you. Please think that, okay? Because if it makes you feel any better, I actually did a security assessment of your church, and you actually are very good here. Did I not compliment your church? You did. So, in fact, I've even used your church as some examples from my other churches. So, okay, does the door close a little bit faster? Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, now just kind of think about this too. You've got door stops in the bottom, don't you? Okay, could you put those down? Push those down. Yeah. Okay, but that big wedge you have there, even if you were just to go ahead and put some door stops on the sides of the walls there, so they're already in place. Does that make sense what I'm saying? That way if something happens, rubber door stopper, put it right in there, and it'll work with the floor and the carpet. Okay?
Door stop on this side isn't going to help, is it?
It'll drag.
It'll drag. If you put those things down right there, those I call it like a door stop there too, those things there, and you put the rubber ones too, it's going to buy you time to get that table over there to barricade, okay? You want to do whatever you can. Yeah, whether the door opens in or out, use it because you want to go ahead and buy time. Y'all got what I'm saying? You got to buy that time if you can't get away. Okay, this is about barricading yourself. This is showing a picture of what we call, tension sleeves. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of things. This is what I love to use. You can open the door again and come in. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. I love bungee cords. They're inexpensive, they stretch, they work really, really well. I find that I like the ones that have the metal hooks better because if it's short or whatever, you can just keep adding on. The big plastic ones like this, they're not bad, but keep in mind, metal holds up better than plastic, okay? So I'm not going to break your door, I promise, okay? I'm not even going to have anybody force it because I just want you to know. You're talking about making sure you know which way your door opens. Everybody's with me, right? Okay, so this door right here, which way is this door going to open? That way, right? Okay, so if I want to go ahead and barricade this door, and I'm getting caught in the wire, sorry, and I want to make sure to keep somebody out, I'm not going to hook it. I'm going to use the rope part. Everybody with me on that? Okay? I'm going to put the rope around the doorknob. Everybody see how I've got that? And I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to put my weight into it, okay? And I'm going to go ahead, now I can't get down but so far because I'm still healing up. I want y'all to know that, okay? I'm going to kneel, I got a step here. I can't even sit on the step. I'm going to put all my weight down, and I'm going to hold that. Me putting all my weight down and everything, that door is going to have a hard time getting open. Okay, y'all got what I'm saying? If the person were to gain entry, do I not have something that one person could be over there and one person there? Can we not trip the person up with it? Yeah. But also by doing this, I'm keeping myself away from that door. So if that person decides to shoot into the door, am I in the door? No. And if I'm crouching down, I'm down lower too. Okay? The same thing with these doors here. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but these doors right here, same thing. If I open it, is the fire alarm going to go off? Okay, I know it'll be hard to see, but okay, that door opens outward, okay? I don't want to turn around and be standing this way, do I? Come here, Keith. Let me borrow you for a minute. Now remember, I can't lean back but so far and pull so far with this, okay? Really stinks having a heart attack. Okay. All right, go ahead and close the door for me. I'll let you in. I'll let you back in, I said. Don't worry. There is no handle. All right, we'll hold the door right there for a minute, like that, okay? Just to kind of give you guys an idea. So if I'm over here, and again, I'm putting my weight, and if I were kneeling down, go ahead and pull, Keith. What do you notice? Okay? All right, I'm letting go. I'm releasing tension. I don't want you to flip over, okay? But you see how that holds it, okay? Also keep this in mind. You've got a fire extinguisher here. That person enters in here and everything else. You could use that fire extinguisher on the person too. These are great. You can put them anywhere. A lot of places where I've gone to, I tell people, just hang them by, whoopsie, I told you I had the wire, sorry. If you hang them by your doors, don't tell the children what they are. Because if you bring it to the attention of the children are going to be like, ooh, stretchy, stretchy, okay? You could have them hanging indoors. My daughter's got, I gave her some at her school. She's got them hanging by her door. And she has the most nosy kids. They haven't even noticed them all year because she didn't bring it to their attention. And her classroom has no locks on it. None. So again, you can get them in longer lengths and everything else too, but the metal ones I like. Plus, think about this too. That one door there, if you had to, you could even, where I was leaning back when he was like, if he were to try to come in that door, I can grab one of these chairs, sit in the chair, and I could hook the bungee cord around the chair so I don't have to use my arms anymore. Does that make sense? My weight and the chair will hold the bungee cords and hold that door closed.
Yeah, and I actually had both hands on that door and was leaning back and pulling as hard as I could. And it wasn't-
I ate my spinach today.
I got the hay less than I know.
No, it really, seriously, you put your weight down on it. It doesn't matter how much you weigh. If you weigh 95 pounds soaking wet or if you weigh 200 pounds, the way you're angling yourself and using these is very hard for people to get the door open. Very, very hard. I don't like these locks because you have to have steel doors and they're very expensive. And by the time you actually can finally get it in there, the shooter's going to be in the building. So I don't really know why they keep them there. Want to show you, we may go over 10 minutes. Is that okay? Okay, y'all okay with that? I only got about 10 more minutes. This is an interview Diane Sawyer did with a teacher from Sandy Hook. And I want you guys, remember I told y'all I try to promote positive things too because I hate hearing all the negative. This is a teacher in Sandy Hook who was the first classroom when the shooter came in. And she immediately saw him and took action and she barricaded her room and everything and he did not get into her room because of what she had done. She saved every child in her class. And I want you to listen to what she says about how she knew when she saw him, she didn't deny it. She immediately started telling the kids to go in the bathroom. She took I think it was a bookcase, put it against the door, barricaded the door and made sure the window couldn't be looked into. So look what she has to say here. Oh, wait a minute, go back. You guys will have to hit the thing there, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I forgot to wave at him. My bad, I'm sorry.
And I'll get the sound too. No, sound's up.
Wait a minute, we did a check out the other day, it worked. Okay, well, what she's saying is, I'll let you just see what the teacher looks like. And but again, she had, I believe, 26 children in her classroom. And they were all first graders. And she's, talk about here how when she saw him, what she did and everything else too. So, well, then don't worry, we'll skip that. I can just tell you what she did. The smart thing that she did too was that when the police officers came around, were knocking on the door, she told them, I don't believe you're the police officers. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That is not unusual for us to hear people say that because they're terrified. Again, that stress level is way up and everything. So she said, if you're really the police, I want to see your badge underneath the door and you would have a key to get into the classroom. And the police officer said, okay, I'm going to give you my ID. I have a key. I'm going to enter your classroom right now. So she saw his badge and everything. Because we have ours, we have the picture ID, so we could slide that under somewhere besides our badge we have here too. Okay, every police officer has that. So again, she was smart in doing that. Very, very smart, very brave, I thought too. And one of the concerns she had, believe it or not, when she was doing the interview is that it was kind of funny in a way. She said that one of the kids, when she was telling them, be quiet, and they were doing a good job being quiet, but one little boy told her, well, I know karate, I can take him out. She was like, no, you can't do that. And then she said that she was worried the parents might get upset with her because she said she told every one of the kids that she loved them because it was close to Christmas and she didn't want the kids to think that the last thing they were ever going to hear were those gunshots. She wanted somebody to love them and everything else. And she goes, I hope parents didn't mind that. And as a parent, I'm like, I wouldn't care if my teacher told my kids they loved them in a situation like that. I'd be grateful for that. So again, she did the right thing. She didn't deny it. She took action. She made that decisive movement and everything else too. If you have to fight the shooter, just to kind of keep in mind, like we saw with the Walmart video, you see, don't worry about having your hands all like this. But if you notice, they're throwing something at the face, the head. Do y'all notice that? The reason being is because when you throw something at somebody's head, their natural reflexive behavior, action, is to go ahead and go like that. If they go like that, what's usually going to happen with a gun? They're going to drop it or they're going to lower it, okay? They're not going to have control of it. That's when you can go after it. Now, you may notice a person that has, I'm going to use the laser again. Wait a minute. Come on, what am I doing?
You're going backwards.
Oh, Lord, okay. Wait.
This is my house every night when we get for the remote.
Especially now we got the Fire Stick because I don't know how to use that. Okay. Laser, there we go. I was a little bit too high, sorry. All right, if you see right here, there's a guy that's holding, looks like a little black thing right there. Do y'all see that? That's a fire extinguisher. That person comes in, spray him. Blind him, seriously. You do whatever you have to, and then after you get done blinding them, hit them over the head with that fire extinguisher. You have to do what you have to do to get that person to be stopped. You don't just sit there, oh, they're on the floor now, that's okay. They're still a threat, aren't they? I'm not saying kill the person. I'm saying make sure the person can't get back up and go ahead and keep causing harm. And if you have these already in there, can you not tie the person up with them? Yes, you can. You could tie the person up with them. That way, you got that person, you put this around their arms and chest and everything else, and get another fire extinguisher and tell them, you move, I'm going to hose you down again. You know, that stuff's going to hurt your face. Seriously, it will, okay? Do what you have to do. It's your survival and the other people around you. You got to do what you got to do. Okay, yes?
Yeah, you do.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So if you are like defending like how they are,
Mm-hmm.
and if you did clunk them over the head with a fire extinguisher, and you just hit the right spot and they
Killed 'em?
died, will you be charged, or is it like more self-defense?
More than likely, you're not going to be charged, I can tell you. Now, if it's obvious, you're like, oh, yeah, you're like that. No, then that's different, okay? And if you've gotten where the person is under control, and then you come up and I'm going to knock you, no, then that's you're premeditating there, okay? But if you're doing the act of getting the person under control, making the situation safe, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
You're fine, okay? Like I said, remember, if you're going to, did I push the right button?
If you find yourself in a situation where you have to defend yourself, you've got to set your mindset that you are now in it to win it.
Yeah.
This is life or death, and you are in it to win it. And if your loved ones are in that room, or your friends are in that room,
Or coworkers or whatever.
coworkers, maybe even people you don't like are in that room. That doesn't mean you grab them and put them in front of you. But you need to make sure that you have the mindset to be in it to win it.
And I will tell you, we do training all the time. Like sometimes we use Patrick Henry Mall and everything else. We actually do practice mass shooting events and everything else too. And we have to take it seriously. I'm not gonna lie, when I participate in it, you're pumped up and everything. I mean, you feel like you're really in a real thing too. You're like, okay, because you don't know where the person is or anything. Now, this is that shooting in Paris, and this is the guy who ended it. Remember we saw earlier where the gunman's gun kept jamming up and everything else too? This guy saw his opportunity. Watch what he does here. He's very calm. He gets off the phone, first of all. Everybody notice that? He was calling the police too. Yeah, he got a bottle. He hit him over the head with a bottle and the gun jammed again. And then he tackled him on the floor, and then another person came and got the guns away from him. So that's what you have to do. You have to work together. If you see somebody taking action, please don't, I mean, if God forbid you're in that bad of a situation, the opportunity presents itself, help that person, okay? You're going to have to be a team. Yes?
The peekaboo guy might have been looking for the same opportunity.
No, I think he was just being nosy, to be honest, seriously. And I'm not saying that to be funny, because you need to run first, because if you remember when he came in, the gun jammed itself at first, and then he started shooting again. So when he was coming in, he was still shooting. You know, when he got over, getting closer there, you could see where he was reloading his gun and everything else. No, and he's got an assault rifle. You need to get away. You need to get away, okay? Just remember outdoor events. We already talked about this. If you're out there somewhere, be, situational awareness, know what's going on around you and everything. If you see somebody in the middle of summer and they're, acting funny, wearing long sleeves, a trench coat and all this stuff and carrying a backpack, which they shouldn't anyhow at these venues, you need to report it, okay? Just report it as suspicious behavior. Let the police check it. Let us check it. We'll look at it and everything else. So let me show you about as far as why it's so important about what you do matters at Virginia Tech. Remember we had a girl, Christina. This was her hall that she was in with her school. This is the floor she was on. Just to show you real quick, remember she said when they heard the shooting, it sounded like what? An axe, okay? Her classroom's 211. Everybody see 211? Okay, the shooter started in 206 across the hall from her. The reds are indicating people who were killed, yellow are people who were seriously injured, green are people who did survive their injuries. Now, again, she said, do you all remember what she said about what her teacher did? Her teacher peeked out the door and said, call 911. Okay, her teacher at this point did not peek out the door. He goes over to room 207. Her teacher still had not called 911, still had not peeked out the door. Her teacher peeked out the door when he came to her classroom. See how many people died in that classroom? okay? Then he goes over to room 204. But I want to show you something interesting about room 204. In room 204, do you notice the windows back there? Do you notice how they're kind of like some of them are open and everything? What happened was the teacher that was in there was a Holocaust survivor. He knew what gunshots sounded like. So none of these doors could lock in this hallway. So what he did was he told his students to jump out the window. And what happened with his classroom is, you see all the greens out there and the white? Those are the ones who jumped out. They all lived, okay? The only two that died in his classroom were him and his teacher's aide. Now, here's something a lot of people never hear about with the Virginia Tech shooting. 205. Nobody ever talks about room 205. And I don't know why they don't, because here's a good example of people doing the right thing. What do you notice about room 205? Everybody survived. When they heard the gunshots, they didn't deny it. What they started doing was they started barricading the door, and then what they also did was some of the guys laid on the floor, put their feet against the door, formed like a V formation, and then another guy got behind him, put his legs and feet on this guy's shoulders while the other people were barricading the door. The gunman shot into the classroom, but it didn't hit anybody because everybody was laying down on the floor. Everyone survived. And I never knew it until I took this course. I never heard about this classroom, everybody surviving. Has anybody ever else heard about this? Why are we not promoting people doing the right thing? We really need to go ahead. This is a terrible tragedy. Please don't get me wrong. But there was something that was done right, and we need to promote that and educate people and let them know you can survive something like this. So, again, keep that in mind. This is our job. We're going to stop the killing, dying. We already talked about this. We're going to evacuate the injured. When we come, we're going to tell you, show us your hands and everything else too. I'll give you an example of what it's going to look like. Hopefully, you might need to play it back there. There we go.
Are you ready? If you're not cool, I'm not walking with you.
This is from an officer's Axon camera, the officer in the back, okay?
Watch that deputy right there. Keep your hands where I can see him. All the way to that deputy. So you're going to make the left of the deputy's out. Thank you. Thank you. Try to relax. Everyone try to relax. I'll take a bullet before you do. That's for damn sure. Just be cool, okay?
You see how you've got officers waiting down there to show people where to go out. Now, I will tell you this, and I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes they get upset when I say this. When we do the active shooter trainings and everything else too, we've already seen it happen in reality too. We go upon the scene. We tell you to come at us. If you go like this, what do we think this is going to be? A weapon, a gun or something, because there are guns that look like phones. Please, please, this is replaceable, okay? I don't care. Leave it. You'll get it back. When we had the shooting at Heritage, we had all those teachers who couldn't get their car keys. They couldn't get their cell phones, their computers. A lot of those teachers had to leave their cars there overnight, couldn't get them back until the next day because it was a crime scene. But you know what? They knew they were going to get them back. Does that make sense what I'm saying? This is replaceable. Your life is not. Don't come up with your hands. Because I can tell you from my experience, I've been here 35 years, I'm not going to lie with you. When I do the scenarios, every time I've done it and somebody came up with a phone, guess what I did to them? I shot them. Every time. Because I assumed that was the shooter. I'm looking for somebody with a weapon in their hand. I'm looking for something. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And we're pumped up too. You have to realize that. We're pumped up too. So just keep that in mind. And what we're going to go ahead and do, just to kind of let you know again, the medical is going to come after we go ahead and make it. If you notice, we didn't name those shooters from the earlier things when I showed you the situations and everything else. We don't want to give them that recognition. This is a young lady that was from Sandy Hook, very young lady. That was her first year of teaching, Victoria Soto. She had the most casualties in her classroom. Every child in her classroom except for 4 were killed. And the 4 that survived were severely injured. And the only reason those 4 survived was because she threw her body over them. And used her body to the shooter to go ahead and shoot into. Now, we also have, again, I like to accent the positive. This lady, it's kind of weird. She's a teacher in Illinois. She teaches PE and math. Most of our PE teachers around here teach usually PE and driver's ed or, seriously, y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? Or, I was kind of PE and health and everything, so I was surprised. She was in her school, and she was walking during her, what do you call it, the teacher... like the time the teachers can work, their work time, whatever. Planning period, thank you, planning period. And she happened to see a student in the school that she knew had been suspended, and she was like, you don't belong in here, and thinking that in her mind, and then she saw him all of a sudden turn the corner and saw that he had a bag in his arm, and she knew she put 2 and 2 together, so she tackled him. She knocked him to the ground before he even got that gun out of the bag. And, she yelled for help and everything, and she got the help. So again, somebody deciding, I know I can take this on and do it. You have to know your limitations too, don't get me wrong. And if you're the type person, you saw that, you're like, I can't take this person on, then what could you be doing? Call 911. Exactly. There's always something to be done. I don't want you to sit there, freeze. You need to start, like I said, get rid of that denial. Start doing something, okay? So we kind of went over everything, and what I want to do is I want to show a quick 4-minute video, but are there any questions, or I answered them pretty much so far all along, hopefully? Delayed. All right, go ahead, what's your question?
Real quick. So, like, if you're in your house
Mm-hmm.
and you have an intruder that breaks in through a window or the door or something, like, I know with tornadoes, like, go in a room with no windows. What would be, like, a best, like, trick up place where you could make the 911 call?
Well, you should be calling 911 no matter where you are as soon as you hear that person.
Yeah.
Okay? And like I said, if depending on where you are, can you get out a window? If you're, on the first floor or something, can you get out a window? And even if you're in a second story, some houses have that lower roof, like where the garage is, can you get, and I know that sounds terrible, but even if you go out there and you go to the side of the window, don't just go outside the window and just sit there, because and close the window behind you, okay? Make sure you do carry your phone with you too when you go out like that. We tell people, don't hide under beds, don't hide under or into closets. You need to try to get out and get out of the way, okay? If you can't, you absolutely can't, then if you do have to hide somewhere, hide somewhere. Yeah. And that's where if you have a teenager who's a slob comes in handy, because usually their room's the easiest place to hide at, okay? Because they're not going to look really good, seriously, because they're going to look in the room, oh, yeah. But they go into like a parent's room that's all neat and everything else, they're going to figure you're hiding underneath the bed or you're hiding underneath the closet in there, okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's show this quick video. This is just a review of everything we talked about, okay, about what you should do.
Hi, can I get you started with drinks?
Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta take this.
We'll need a minute.
No, I'm here.
Remember we said a shooting can happen anywhere, okay?
Hey, you need to back up. You can't be here anymore. Get out of my face, what, man. You think I'm afraid of you? Get off, man! 911, there's a clip.
Running makes you harder to hit and improves your chances of survival. Don't go up here.
Police, where is he?
By the bar, blue jeans, black shirt. Empty hands up, follow their instructions.
I'm in the direct line of fire if I head for either exit, but I have other options to help me survive. Guys, come on, in here. Come on. Go, go, go. Lock and barricade the door.
Both my exits are blocked by the shooter. I gotta stay hidden. I'm no victim. I'm ready for this.
He's applying direct pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding until we can find a tourniquet. In the meantime, turn off your phones and make a plan to defend yourself.
We have to fight to survive. If you control the weapon, you control the shooter. I'll go for the gun. He'll go for his arms. The bartender will go for the head.
Where is he?
We got him right here.
Please, show me your hands.
Over here.
You can survive a mass shooting if you're prepared. Remember, run, hide, or fight. Run. Wherever you go, be aware of alternate exits. Quickly and cautiously evacuate in a direction away from the attacker. Don't hesitate. Seconds matter. Remember windows and emergency exits. Leave belongings behind. Keep your empty hands raised and clearly visible when exiting a building. Follow all instructions from the police. Don't stop until you're sure you've reached a safe location. Hide. If there is no safe escape route, find a good hiding place. Lock and barricade the door. Silence cell phones. Prepare a defense plan. Fight. Fight only as a last resort. Use available objects as improvised weapons. Use teamwork and surprise. A coordinated ambush can incapacitate an attacker. You're fighting for your life. Don't fight fair. Stop the bleed. A victim can die of uncontrolled blood loss in 5 minutes or less. Apply pressure or a tourniquet to control severe bleeding. Go to fbi.gov/survive to learn more.
Okay, that's the end of the presentation. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Thank you for my volunteers so much for coming up here and being brave and doing that. And again, you know, anytime if you guys ever need anything from either one of us, we're the only two youngs on the police department. Just call our department and ask for us. One little pitch I do want to give to you too when we talk about young people not having anything to do. Just to let you know, if you go on our website, and I work under the Community Youth Outreach Division, we've got all kinds of free camps for young people this summer. We even have a drone unit camp where elementary kids can come and learn how to fly our drones. We have an overnight camp. That's why I was at the Coast Guard station all day today, because we were planning on activities for the kids, we're working with the Coast Guard and everything. They get to go out on the boats and everything. It's going to be really cool. That is an overnight camp for boys and girls, and we take their cell phones away from them, so they have to learn to talk to each other and everything the whole week. It's great, a lot of fun, team building and everything. And we also have a Citizens Police Academy for youth. Now, to also let you know, we have Citizen Police Academy for seniors, for adults, anything if you want. It's all free, so please look on our website. Come and join us and be partners and everything with us, because we'd love for you to. We're looking for volunteers for our department too. When we do the shooting, active shooting scenarios, we're even looking for volunteers to play victims and stuff. You know, so I'm not saying you'd want to be, you know, victim, but you know what I'm talking about. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Just by y'all being in our building today, what would be trying to say, what would be our best exit for an active shooter in the building? Say he's on the other end, and I can see we got exit here and exit here.
If he's down that way?
If he's down out here. He's down here.
And if he's down there, if you do go out this door, you need to head that way. You can still exit that door, but go out that way, yeah.
Don't do like you do in a fire drill, where you stop in the parking lot and turn around.
Yeah, you keep going, yeah. And the thing I will tell you that's really kind of a good, I'm sorry, can I let them know? One thing I was very impressed with your church was, and I know he laughed when I said this, because I remember a long time ago it didn't look quite like that, is the way y'all have got the bushes and the shrubs trimmed around with a playground area. That is so good and such a good preventive measure, because most shooters go to places, and if you, and again, I'm not trying to be negative, but if you look at a lot of these locations where the shootings have happened, even the schools and everything, look at how overgrown all the bushes are, and even by the doors and stuff, and even by the businesses. Now, except for that bank in Kentucky where that happened, but you look at a lot of the other ones, overgrown bushes, or where there's no visibility, you can't see through the windows and everything else too. That is so important, having that visibility. Now, some people will say, well, that means the shooter can see you, but it also means you can see the shooter first. And that's the thing, that gives you time to get away. Okay, but doing that up in the front, it looks so good. And I said, can I please take pictures of this and use this for when I go to other churches and do church security assessments? And he said, yeah, because again, if I see something that's good and positive, I want to, and you do have a lot of exits in your building here too. That was one thing we had gone over, because he gave me a whole tour of the whole place. Yes?
My daughter is in high school, and they
Mm-hmm.
Which are good, except for there, sometimes depending on when it happens, there are people in the halls, but the teachers have to shut and lock the doors. Then you leave all these people in the hall. How do they deal with that?
Well, they're supposed to get the kids in there. They're supposed to, if they see a kid in the hallway, they're supposed to grab them in there. But also, the kids aren't supposed to, no offense meant, play around the hall and act like, oh, this is just a practice. They needed to treat it as it was serious, you know? Because like I said, when the thing happened out at Heritage, the kids were like, I mean, they were reacting the way they should
The
have.
hard thing is, you know, that can't, once the doors are shut, they don't open the doors because, well, I'm a student, yeah, but heck, the shooter could be a student.
You might be surprised, because at Heritage, when they started closing the doors, when they saw kids who were still looking to get into a classroom, they were grabbing them.
You can tell the difference.
Yeah, you can tell the difference. But you see a kid's face, their eyes, whether they're running or if they're the hunter, you could tell a difference. You know, and the biggest thing we had this is one reason why I'm so glad that he works in property evidence. That whole thing that happened at Heritage, we had a young man who was a special needs student who was right there when the shooting happened. His teacher grabbed him immediately and the shooter, his foot actually hit the other kid's sneaker. They were that close and gave him like a flat tire, and he walked out of his shoe. Well, his shoe was considered part of the crime scene because it was covered, you know, in blood and everything else too. And I'll never forget where that teacher, I had worked with him when I was at SRO before, and he had called me and he said, hey, I've got this kid. That the school had actually raised money for this kid. He had like a $250 pair of sneakers. I mean, I'm lucky if I pay $25 for a pair of shoes. But you know, some kids, that's very important. He was so worried about that other shoe and everything else. So luckily I'm married to this guy because I called him up and I said, hey, did you have a Nike that looks like this brought into property and evidence? And he looked and he found it. And he goes, yeah, it's cataloged in there. And I said, well, and he says, let me check with the detective and see if we can release it. So he did, and we got the shoe back. We cleaned the shoe up and everything for the kid, got that shoe back to the kid. Now that kid is finishing his final year at Heritage, and no offense meant, he doesn't hardly remember anything about the shooting. He doesn't care because all he cares is that he got his shoe back. That sounds stupid, but if you can go ahead and try to get that safety thing back for the kids and all too, and try to get them refocused on other things and not dwelling on that, that's what you need to do. And yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes, as the local police department, what's recommendations for churches having designated gun carriers?
That is something I will tell you that each church has to decide themselves. And I will tell you this, if you do have people in your church that are armed, that are carrying, you need to realize a couple things. First of all, you need to check with your insurance, what the insurance policy says about as far as people carrying weapons, even though they're designated maybe a safety team, security team. You need to check with your insurance, and also you need to make sure too, how often are you training these people, and are you qualifying them? Because just because you say you can carry a weapon, you're on our safety team, you got to make sure they're trained. Because the event is something did happen, or let's say something didn't happen, maybe somebody overreacted because they didn't have that training. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to be police officers, but going through some kind of gun safety courses.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You have to make sure that they're trained, because
Yeah.
an untrained person with a gun is just as dangerous as a gun.
And I'll tell you, I went to one church that I did a security assessment with, and there was one gentleman there, and I'm not trying to be mean, please don't think, I'm not making fun of him. But when I walked in, he just reminded me of Barney Fife, and I'll tell you why. Because I walked in, he was 84 years old. He was part of their security team. He had a gun right there, open carry. But the whole time when I was talking to him and walking with him, his hands were like this. And the holster that he had his gun in, it didn't have a lock or anything on it. It just would pull right out. So who's to say that if somebody was mentally disturbed, came in and attacked him, boom, they could get an easy gun too. They could disarm him. So you have to take all the totality of all the circumstances and everything in there. I find a lot of times, again, situational awareness, having greeters at the doors, making sure they're watching who's coming in. If somebody looks suspicious, report it immediately, and not allowing that person to come further into the sanctuary. Just engage them in conversation. Hey, where are you from? How are you doing? That kind of thing. We'd like to welcome you. Is this your first time here? Well, this is the drag out the conversation while you're waiting for the police to come. That's my personal recommendation. Because I see too many times untrained people do the wrong thing.
Yeah, the only church around here that I know for certain that has an armed responder, armed security team is what they call it, is Liberty Baptist out in Hampton. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that church. It's huge. It's an absolutely huge church. But most of the gentlemen who are on their security team are active duty law enforcement.
Yeah.
And what the church does is they come in on Sunday afternoons or Saturday afternoons, and they actually practice together as a team. and they do building sweeps and whatever else they're gonna do tactical wise. I don't know how many of those guys are actual tactical officers. I imagine a lot of them are, or some of them at least, I'm sure, have tactical experience.
But their lead person over there too is a retired police officer.
Yeah, so they got a pretty tight organization over there. That's the only one I know right off the top of my head in the area that has an actual armed security team.
Okay, we got to
Let's
stop.
take the last question real quick.
Yeah.
Here.
No, back here.
Go ahead.
And I don't know how, we're here when we had the exits and but when we had like a Wednesday night when we had Bible study and we just,
Down the fellowship hall.
you were coming in that door
Mhm.
and the only exit is this other end. So we have to come down the hallway.
Okay, I'll tell you this, because I walked already through there. And again, I gave him kudos. Get familiar with those rooms, because some of those rooms have couches and stuff in them. We've already talked about this. And, you can go in one of those rooms and very easily hide. You could barricade those doors with the furniture that's in there. Okay? I walked in all the rooms, trust me, he showed me. So you have a lot of good hiding places in here too. And you have a lot of things that are right near the door that you could barricade with. And you don't have to be a super heavy person, as far as strong. You've got a lot of even things like anybody can move this. Start putting it against the door. Okay? All right, thank you. I didn't mean to run over. I do apologize. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys very, very much. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
I've got a real quick announcement, and we'll have a quick prayer and we'll be dismissed.